What's up, Lost Boys? Today is Monday, which means in 3 days we get football back. But more importantly, we get fantasy back, which I know none of us can wait for. So I decided I'm going to do a little thing today. I am going to do a little team recap, draft recap to kind of talk about how everything went at the draft, what I think of each team. That won't take me too long, but more importantly, today will be week one of a weekly preview that I think I'm going to try to do. Every week, I'm going to look at the matchups and talk about each team, how they match up with each other, and give a prediction for each week. I think it'd be kind of fun and see how I do at the end of the year with my picks. So this will be week one of that, so I'm pretty excited. But before I get to week one picks, we're going to go over each team. I'm going to talk about it real quick. Hopefully, it won't take too long. First one, we're going to start with Sweet Chin. Jace had a really, really solid draft. He went safe floor with Najee Harris at the start, Stefon Diggs. Two guys with really, really high floors. They're going to get a lot of volume, especially Diggs in a really, really good offense. Najee is going to get a ton of touches. Pretty crappy offensive lines, suspect offense, quarterback, but he's going to get a million touches, so it's going to work well. I think Jace's best pick was probably his Cortland Sutton pick. He went T. Higgins early. I actually think Sutton's going to outperform Higgins, so those two are going to flip flop, but I really like his Sutton pick, and I really like his Chase Edmonds pick. I think that Chase Edmonds pick is going to be a phenomenal pick. I think next year Chase Edmonds is going to have a second, third round grade. So we'll see how that goes. He also went really strong on quarterback, went with Herbert, went with Wilson. He didn't want to make the same mistake he made last year. So I really, really like Jace's team. I think overall, top to bottom, it's really strong. Next team we're going to talk about is going to be Patty's team. Speaking of strong quarterbacks, Patty decided to go strong quarterbacks as well. He went with Tommy B and Dak. We know what you're going to get with Tommy B, 4,000 plus yards, 35 touchdowns, strong offense, even keel across the board. Dak Prescott, I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to have a really bad defense. And I think they're going to throw a lot, especially, I know the Tyron Smith thing hurts, losing him, which may force them to actually pass more. No Amari Cooper at the start of the year, which means CeeDee Lamb's going to get a lot of targets, but the person throwing him those targets is going to be Dak. I think he's also going to maybe try to get back to running a little bit more this year because he understood last year that's what made him really good. I also love the Allen Lazard pick. I was targeting him in my draft. I could not get him because Pat took him. Come on, it's Green Bay's #1 wide receiver. So I think especially early in the year, Rodgers going to trust him. Great pick, Pat. Also, speaking of Pat's team, I think he may have even had the best pick in the draft amongst everyone, or one of the best picks in the draft. Mark Andrews. I think he got him at the end of the fourth, early fifth. Pretty much is the same. But I mean, Mark Andrews was clear cut #2 tight end. Some people even had him #1, which didn't make sense to me. But a stud. He's going to dominate that position. The Ravens don't have a lot of receiving wideouts, so he's going to get a ton of targets from Lamar. With the Andrews pick, great pick, Pat, and then obviously didn't even talk about Jonathan Taylor. So he has the #1 pick in Jonathan Taylor, the cornerstone of his team, as well as all the other guys. Like I mentioned, the fact that he has Dak thrown to CeeDee Lamb, and I had CeeDee Lamb #4 wide receiver on my board this year, so I had him above Diggs. I think he's going to have a ton of volume, and I think it's going to work out great for Pat. So really solid team. After Pat, we're going to go to Barreto. Barreto's team was interesting at the draft. He started off good in the first round. He went with Jamar Chase over Cooper Kupp, which was interesting. But I like the pick. Kupp. You hear the Stafford elbow injury stuff. A lot of people saying there's no way Kupp can duplicate last year. Chase, younger, has a good rapport with Burrow, extremely talented. He could have a monster season, and it could work out for Barreto. After that, we'll see. This is a very we'll see type of year for Barreto. He chose James Conner in the second round. He had Conner last year, did great for him. And theoretically, it's a good pick because he's the #1 bell cow running back on a run-heavy team that does well. But it's not the fact that I don't like Conner. It's the fact that I don't like where he took Conner. He took him before a lot of really good players. But a good player is a good player, and he could get him. After that Connor pick, though, it got a little dicey. I mean, he ended up with Mahomes, and I am under the agreement that I think Mahomes is going to go nuclear this year. I think he's going to have another 5,000-yard year, and I think he's going to get damn close to 50 touchdowns. Maybe not 50 touchdowns because I don't think our defense is going to be that bad to warrant 50 touchdowns, but he's going to have over 40 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. So I love the fact that he got Mahomes, and I love Derek Carr this year. So his quarterbacks are actually really good. He got lucky that I took Michael Pittman on accident, and he snagged him. I think Pittman's going to be a monster. I don't even think Justin knows who Michael Pittman is, to be honest with you. But he got him. But then Juju in the fifth, starting Cordell. I mean, week one, he's starting Cordell Patterson, Jerry Jeudy in his flex, and Jeudy and Cordell Patterson, they might be good, but you can't be starting those guys in week one more than likely with other guys that are there on the board. But with Justin's luck with saying all that, for all we know, Juju could be this year's Debo, where we were all laughing at Justin when he took Debo in like the sixth last year, and Debo ended up blowing up. If Juju stays healthy and Mahomes goes nuclear, then Juju could do great for him. If Thielen stays healthy, Thielen could be great for him. So all these things could happen. It's just he took his guys a little bit early most times in the draft. But you never know. He's been successful the last 3 years, so maybe he knows something we don't. After that, we're going to go to Ryan. Ryan is the definition of boom or bust. Ryan's team will either get first place and win the Super Bowl or probably get last place. Or actually second to last because Tim. He went with Christian McCaffrey, which I think was the right pick 100%. He went with Saquon in the second round, which honestly I think was the right pick. Now, teaming both of those guys up together, that's super risky. But holy cow, the ceiling on both of those guys is insane. Deebo Samuel as his wide receiver one. It's going to be interesting because Trey Lance hasn't looked good. He isn't known for throwing the ball that well. Deebo's super talented, though. He has been injury prone in the past. Yes, last year he was not injured too much, but you never know. Like I said, that's Ryan's theme. And then his flex running back is Elijah Mitchell, who's also injury prone, but on the 49ers offense. So Ryan's team is really interesting. Like I said, if those first two picks stay healthy, my gosh, I mean, a healthy Christian McCaffrey is almost 30 points a game, which is insane. But saying that, when you're starting Elijah Mitchell every week and Deebo every week, you have a lot of stock in the 49ers offense, which for all we know could be mediocre with Trey Lance at quarterback. I mean, he's also starting Devontae Smith in his flex spot in week one, which is not what you want to be doing. He drafted Amon-Ra Brown pretty early. I'm not a fan of him. I thought last year was a fluke. And his QB2 is Trevor Lawrence. So I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a good year. I really do. But, in order for you to start Trevor Lawrence, your roster should probably be a little bit better than what Ryan's was. But like I said, at the end of the day, if those first two guys stay healthy, it's not even going to matter what his roster is. He's going to be getting 50 to 60 points from his running backs every single week, and he's going to be a force in the league. So, I mean, we'll see how I'm really interested to see that Justin versus Ryan matchup week one. It should be pretty good. After that, we're going to go with Denny. Denny's team, I just got done talking about the 49ers offense with Trey Lance. He has Trey Lance, and I was targeting Trey Lance in the draft as well. I probably would have taken Cousins over him regardless, but I really think Trey Lance is going to do really well fantasy-wise, as in you could look at the 49ers and they could have 16, 17 points, something like that. But you look at Trey Lance and he has 90 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, and he has 100 passing yards and a passing touchdown, and before you know it, it's 20 plus points, and that's just the strength of a running quarterback. So Denny's got that. He also has Rodgers, who I don't think is going to be the best guy, but he's not going to be the worst guy. He's going to be good old Rodgers. And the reason I say that is because Green Bay's defense, I think, is going to be phenomenal. Speaking of Green Bay's defense, Denny took him. And I really wanted them this year, and I think they're going to be a top 3 fantasy defense. So that's a kind of a hidden strength to Denny's team. I think a lot of weeks are going to do really well for him. He has phenomenal running backs. I mean, Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones. I was really high on Aaron Jones this year. I think he's going to catch 80 balls. So Denny's got stud running backs. He also went with Etienne. We'll see how Etienne does. I was much higher on Etienne about a month and a half ago when it looked like James Robinson was going to start on the PUP list. It looks like James Robinson's going to start the year on the roster, which is crazy. Who knows how much work he's going to get, but Etienne is going to catch a lot of balls. So Denny's running backs are going to be gross. His wide receivers, on the other hand, are a different story. He has Tyreek Hill, which I actually think Tyreek Hill is going to be a monster this year. I love Tyreek Hill. I know it's not cool to say that or whatnot, and Tua and yada yada, but first off, with Jalen Waddle already dealing with an injury, number one. Number two, we forget Tyreek Hill isn't just a receiver that got traded. Tyreek Hill is literally one of the most talented receivers ever in the league. I mean, he's literally the fastest guy I've ever seen play football. And you have a coach in Mike McDaniels who's going to get the ball in his hands. So good things are going to happen. I think Tyreek Hill is going to be a baller this year. But when you're starting Hunter Renfrow, when you're starting Gabe Davis, when you're starting Drake London, these guys, they're not it. They're not it at week one. Darren Waller's dealing with a contract thing right now. So if he's going to need his running backs, he's going to need Trey Lance to ball out, and he's going to be honest with you, Denny's special teams, Justin Tucker, Green Bay defense, he's going to need those guys to smoke his opponent in order for him to have a chance every single week. It could happen, we'll see, but the wide receivers and the flexes could get a little tricky with him. After that, we're going to go learning computer. Matt, he took Allen. He took Allen in the second round. A lot of mocks do the two quarterbacks, have him take him in the first round. Luckily, by the way, guys, this is the first year. No quarterbacks in the first round. Great job. Matt went with Josh Allen, second round. He has Stafford as well. So Matt's team is very, very strong at the quarterback position, maybe the strongest at the quarterback position amongst everyone. So he's going to get a lot of points from them every week. After that, I'm not a huge fan of what the computer was picking for Matt. I got to be honest. Rashad Bateman could be good, could be awful. Ravens could be running the ball a lot. Chris Godwin, we don't even know if he's playing week one. David Montgomery may be on the worst offense in the league, especially when it comes to running. Like, this is not the circa 2005 Bears where they didn't have an offense, but they had a phenomenal defense and kept Bears games close. They have no offense and absolutely no defense. So I think the Bears are going to be playing from behind a lot, and that really, really hurts David Montgomery. So we'll see how that is. I mentioned the Jalen Waddle stuff already. He's a little bit banged up already. I hope he's healthy because I love the player. But we'll see if he can make it through the season. We'll see if he can make it even to week one. And then he's starting Tony Pollard in his flex spot in week one. That's a backup running back. So you can't be doing that on week one. Keenan Allen's nice. And his quarterbacks are nice, but I'm honestly a little worried about Mr. Roman. We'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be tough trudging at least. I mean, Josh Allen's going to have to put up 35 points a week, and same as Stafford. Stafford's going to put up 25 to 30 for his team to have a chance, but that's what two quarterback leagues are for. Next, we're going to go with the bye week, Mr. Banks. Joking around, bye week, and it seems like it's the same story with Tim every single year. It's not the draft with Tim. Tim does a good job. He pulls up a site right before the draft. He probably doesn't even know half the players that he's picking, but he follows the rankings. He picks decent teams, and then he pretty much goes AFK. Another name for Tim maybe next year is AFK because he is literally non-existent all year. But right now, as of this day, his team looks pretty good. I'm sorry. Jameis Winston could be pretty decent. I just mentioned how bad the Bears will be. They'll be playing from behind. Justin Fields, not the best, but he's going to get you 50, 60 rushing yards. The weeks that he started last year, I think for a 6-week stretch, he was averaging over 20 fantasy points a game. And he's going to be in a lot of garbage time situations. Can he stay healthy, though? That offensive line is god-awful in Chicago. So his quarterbacks are definitely a weak point, but they have potential to be average. After his quarterbacks, though, his teams, I like it a lot. I mean, Mike Evans, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, he has the wide receiver one. He has 3 wide receiver ones on his team, including one for Tom Brady. If Godwin can't come back full strength, Evans is going to get 1 million targets. And yes, Evans is already banged up. I get that. But Evans is literally, he'll wake up out of bed, he'll get you 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns every single year. It's pretty much what Mike Evans does. Terry McLaurin, he's a very talented guy. He gets Carson Wentz this year. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just a net zero. He's a pretty talented guy, but we'll see how he does. Deontay Johnson gets about 140 targets every single year. That was with Big Ben, though. We'll see how it is with Mitchell Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. But, that's also wide receiver one. But his first two picks were phenomenal. He wanted a running back, Dalvin Cook. If Dalvin Cook stays healthy, I honestly think he could be the RB1 this year. I think that offense is going to be awesome. And I think Dalvin Cook is an awesome player by himself. Tim made the mistake, though. He didn't get Alexander Madison, which is something you have to do when you get Dalvin Cook. But, Dalvin Cook's going to be awesome. And then DeAndre Swift, man, the ceiling for Swift is insane. I think the Lions are going to be sneaky good this year. I think they're going to be competitive in every game. I think Swift's going to be an awesome fantasy asset for Tim. I mean, another one, and I'm super high on that could be game changing for him is Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts had one TD last year. That's not going to happen again. He is Atlanta's not just number one tight end. He is Atlanta's number one offensive player, period. And he's a freak. He's kind of Calvin Johnson for the tight end position. And he's going to get a ton of targets. He's going to get touchdowns. He's going to get yards. The question is he going to be able to get the touchdowns? Like last year he had one. I don't think Atlanta's going to be good this year. I think they're going to be pretty much terrible. But if you can get, 7 or 8 garbage touchdowns from Pitts this year, he's going to have like 1,200 yards and he's going to be a stud. And I think Tim's going to hit the jackpot with that. His flexes are DK and CEH. I'm out on CEH. I don't want any part of that, but he's also the Chiefs' starting running back. We'll see how he does. DK, who knows? But Tim's team overall, minus the quarterbacks, we'll see how the QBs do. Not bad. Next, we're going to go to Cass, guys. Cass, reigning champ. He crushed it last year. He had a great draft. It carried him through the year. He got that title. So congrats to Cass. Speaking of the title, Cass, I still got it over here. But Cass's team, he has Kyler Murray. I think he went Kyler in the 5th round this year. I think Kyler's going to be really good, especially a really good fantasy scorer. The thing with Kyler is not if he's going to be good, it's if he can stay healthy. Because pretty much every year, it's the same thing. The first 8 games, Kyler Murray is QB1. It's just how it is. 7, 8 games in, he is QB1. He gets 30 points a week. He runs, he throws. Cliff Kingsbury throws, score, and Kyler Murray's awesome. And then Kyler Murray gets hurt, and you don't know what to do. And that's kind of the motto. If he can stay healthy, I think he is QB1. So Cass could hit the jackpot with that. Second QB, I don't think he's getting QB1 because it's Tua. And I don't know if Cass planned on getting Tua late in the draft, but it's Tua. And he could be awesome. You never know. I mean, when you have 2 wide receivers that people are picking to be in their top 30 in Tyreek Hill and in Jalen Waddle, Tua's got to do something, right? But at the end of the day, we'll see if the talent comes out. The thing with Tua is this is the year. If he does awesome, great. If he's done, then this will probably be his last year as a starter in the NFL. But I don't know if you want him as your fantasy 2 quarterback right now, but Cass has him. After that, Cass's draft was starting off rockstar. He ended up having Cooper Kupp fall to him, easy pick for him. Then he ended up having Kelsey fall to him, easy pick for him in the 2nd round. So his first 2 picks were insane. After that, though, I will see how Cass's team does. I'm actually not a huge fan of his team all around. I do really, really, really like his wide receivers. I think his wide receivers are probably the best in the league, or close to the best in the league. When you have Cooper Kupp, A.J. Brown, I'm really high on Brandon Cooks. Those 3 starters are really, really, really going to be good. But after that, I mean, you're starting, you got Javonte Williams, which everyone was high on Javonte Williams. I know Jace wanted him, Cass wanted him, a lot of people ranked him high. But at the end of the day, he's a guy that is going to be splitting carries with Melvin Gordon. And it's the start of the season. Melvin Gordon's still healthy. No one's hurt. And that team's going to be passing the ball more with Russell Wilson. So it's not even going to be a run-heavy team. And you don't want to be starting a running back that's going to get 55% of the carries or 45 or 50-50 or 60-40 even. You want a bell cow guy. And you don't want a guy that in week 1, Gordon's going to be getting a lot of those goal line touches. That's going to get frustrating. So, Javonte, we'll see. Rashard Penny, can't be starting Rashard Penny. Can't be doing it week 1. I'm sorry. Seattle is going to be a train wreck this year. Rashard Penny looked good last year for the most part. That was the first 6-week stretch of his career that he's ever stayed healthy. I'll be surprised if he makes it through 2 weeks without getting hurt. You want to avoid this this Seattle team altogether, especially that backfield. So he's starting Rashard Penny. And then his flex position, I think Cass has the worst flexes in the league, which is surprising because he knows a ton about fantasy, but it didn't get him good players in the draft when it comes to flex. Brees Hall, rookie running back, and on the Jets. Those are two things that you don't want to put together. Yes, he's a really talented guy, but the guy wasn't even a first round pick. And the Jets are terrible. I mean, let's call it how it is. The Jets are terrible. And they're going to be behind every single game. And Brees Hall isn't even technically the starter. I mean, the coaches are saying Michael Carter is going to get a lot of work. He pretty much has a Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon scenario with Brees Hall, Michael Carter, except the Jets are awful. So you're starting Brees Hall, a really, really bad situation, and then you're starting Elijah Moore. You're literally starting two Jets in your flex spots. Can't do it. You cannot do that in your week one for fantasy football. So I'm a little worried about Cass in fantasy in general this year. He could jump on the waiver, I can make some moves, or for all I know, his team is going to kick ass and smoke everyone. Like that's the thing about fantasy, you never know. But that first week, you got bye week versus Cass. It's going to be an interesting one to go, which I'll go over that here in just a second when we talk about the matchups. Next one, we're going to go with, we're going to talk about me. My team, I really, really liked my team. I liked the way I started my draft. I'm high on Kamara. If he gets suspended, I'm kind of fucked. But fingers crossed, hopefully he does not get suspended. I mean, if we knew this suspension was non-existent, I think Kamara had a chance to go top 6. So I'll take him in the second round. Justin Jefferson, I had him number 1 wide receiver on my board. I had him number 2 or 3 on my board overall, depending if CMC was there. So I'm really high on Justin Jefferson. I'm really high on the Vikings offense. I don't know if you guys have kind of got that throughout the thing, talking about Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen. I think the Vikings offense is going to be awesome this year. The fact that I was able to snag Nick Chubb, I was shocked he fell to the 3rd round. So I was happy about that. My wide receivers, DJ Moore, I did the accidental choose Michael Pittman. I ended up with DJ Moore at the next pick. We'll see how it goes. I was high on both of them. Hopefully Baker stays healthy and is able to help him excel. And then I mentioned the Bears with Fields earlier and all. I think they're going to be a bad offense. Don't get me wrong, but I think they're going to be behind a lot. So I'm hoping for some garbage yards at least. I don't know about the touchdowns, but at least some yards for Mooney this year. I think Goddard. I think the Eagles are going to be good. Jalen Hurts, Kirk Cousins. I don't want to talk about my team too much, but I think they're going to be pretty good. I'm really high on them. We'll see how it goes. I am starting Dameon Pierce this year. I mentioned the rookie running back in Jets earlier. I'm starting a rookie running back with Houston. Not a good combo at all. So that's because J.K. Dobbins, I don't think he's going to start week 1. If J.K. Dobbins starts, great. Put him in there. We'll see how Dameon Pierce does. He's got the hype train going, but usually that hype train doesn't mean anything. So that's definitely the weak point of my team. But overall, we'll see. Could be good. Could be meh. Cal's team, last one, talk about with the draft. I think Cal did okay. I like the fact that he got Lamar. I think Lamar is going to be awesome this year. Obviously, he's a running quarterback. We play 4-point passing touchdowns, so it helps running quarterbacks even more. I think Lamar is going to do awesome. He's going to get a lot of yards on the ground. He went with Devontae Adams in the second round over Aaron Jones. Shocked a lot of us. But I think Devontae is going to be awesome. He has a good rapport with Carr. They went to college together, and I think Devontae is going to be a machine. Mike Williams, a lot of people think he might surpass Keenan Allen this year as the wide receiver 1 for San Diego or for LA. And then he has Cooper. I don't like the Cooper pick. I don't like Amari Cooper at all this year. You don't want a receiver for the Browns where the first 11 games he's getting the ball thrown to him by Jacoby Brissett. But he is the wide receiver 1 for that team, and he's a pretty talented guy. So we'll see if he can do pretty good. His running backs, he took Joe Mixon with his first pick. I think it's a good pick. I think it's a very safe pick. The Bengals offense is going to be good. They improved their offensive line, and Joe Mixon's a pretty talented guy. He needs to make sure he gets all the goal line carries, which he usually always does. We'll see if he gets any passing down work. He does some. Sometimes he doesn't. But as long as he's getting that goal line work, which I think the Bengals are going to score a lot, Mixon's going to be a really, really good player. I think last year he was running back 4 or 5. So great pick for Cal there. His flexes are a little bit iffy. He has Cam Akers. We have no idea what Cam Akers is going to be. He could be the starting running back of one of the best offenses in the league, stay healthy, and be a top 10 running back. Or he could literally get hurt week 1 and be a bust. Or he could be, the worst case scenario is not get hurt week 1, split carries with Darrell Henderson, Cal has to start him every week, and he's looking at 7 points every week, and he's pulling his hair out. That's the worst case scenario, and we've all been there. And that's the kind of guy that you have with Cam Akers. Talented a guy enough where you have to start him because his offense is good. But man, if he just doesn't get the work on each and every Sunday, it's going to drive you crazy. And then also he's starting Kadarius Toney week 1. Cannot start Kadarius Toney week 1. I'm sorry, you can't. First off, Giants offense god awful. Second off, Toney's been hurt in the preseason. He was hurt last year. He gets hurt all the time. I hope he starts because he's a really, really fun player to watch. He's very talented. I hope he does good. But that's a guy you put on your bench and you wait to see how he does, kind of like a lottery ticket guy. But he's starting in week 1. We'll see how he does. He has Kittle at tight end. Kittle could be really good. But for the most part, I think Cal's team overall is a pretty decent team. I mean, you got Zeke. He's kind of one of those guys uncertain. Does Pollard get more touches? How does the run game in Dallas look? So we'll see how it goes. I think Cal has a couple really good guys: Lamar, Mixon, Devontae Adams, 3 monster studs, and then he has a couple guys that could bring him down every single week. So it's going to be a wide variance for Cal, but overall, we'll see. So those are the teams, boys. Hopefully that didn't take too long. I apologize. I tried to make that not long-winded. And this week's going to be a little unique since while I was talking about each team, I kind of talked about what I thought of each player going into the week. But now I'm going to do the matchups real quick. So we'll start. Matchup of the week. I'll start with the matchup of the week every single week. This week's matchup of the week is Jace versus Pat. Sweet Chin versus the Titty Biscuits. Just look at the projections, guys. You got a 161.49 versus a 161.27. Not only do you have the 2 highest scoring projections facing each other, but they're separated by 0.2. I mean, that's crazy. It seems like this is the game where someone's going to get a bad beat, and we hate to see it, but this is fantasy. It's going to happen every single week. It's going to be an awesome matchup. I've already gone over most of these people's teams, so I don't want to try to do that too much. But the matchups in this one are going to be super fun, and the reason I say that is Pats has Tommy B and Dak Prescott. Well, guess who plays each other in week 1? Tommy B, the Bucks, play Dak Prescott, the Cowboys, week 1. So Pat's rooting for that game. That is his main fantasy game. I mean, he has Tom Brady, he has Leonard Fournette on the Bucks playing each other. Then he has Dak Prescott and he has CeeDee Lamb playing each other. I mean, he wants that game to be 45-50. So that's the game that Pat has all his marbles in. And to be honest with you, I think the game is going to be high scoring. I mean, Dallas's defense is terrible, but their offense is good. Tampa Bay's lost a lot of stuff with injuries. I think Tampa Bay is going to take a step down, but their offense is still going to excel. So I think that's going to be a jackpot for Pat. On the flip side of it, I mean, Jace just has offensive explosion all around. He has the Cincinnati, T. Higgins, Najee Harris are going against each other. But the problem with Jace is the Najee Harris thing, he doesn't want that to be a high-scoring game. So it's kind of counterintuitive. Does he want it to be low-scoring and get Najee touches, or does he want it to be high-scoring and get T. Higgins touches? For all we know, we're not really sure what's going to happen. I think Russell Wilson's going to go off week 1 because he's playing Seattle. He's playing his old team, and I think that's really going to benefit him and Courtland Sutton. He has the connection to connection. I think this game's going to be close all throughout the day. It's going to be really, really tight. I think that Jace is going to go into Monday Night Football, which is that Seattle game, and I think he's going to be down, I'm not even joking, 55 to 60 points. And I think it's going to be so tight that Pat's going to think, man, I'm up by 60. And Jason's going to think, man, I'm down by 60. But both of them are smart enough fantasy players to know that it's not over because Russell Wilson and Courtland Sutton are going that Monday night. And like I said, Russell Wilson's going to try to do stuff. But at the end of the day, I think Russell falls a little bit short. I think Pat barely edges out Jace just because I think that Tom Brady Bucks versus Dallas game is going to be too high scoring. I mean, it's a Sunday night football game. It's going to be prime time. It just seems like it's going to be a shootout. And I think Pat is going to get in a crazy amount of points from that game. You think maybe 30 from each quarterback, maybe 20 from each of the wide receivers and skill position players. I mean, Pat literally might get 100 points just from that game. So I think Jace gets close to the comeback on Monday night, but I think Patty takes the dub in week 1 in our game of the week. It's going to be a good one. Next one after that, we're going Barreto versus Ryan. We always give Barreto shit, and Ryan's team, we have already talked about it, but we do have some interesting stuff. Like I said, this is not the time to play Ryan, and Justin kind of has the bad luck on that one because Ryan's team is very injury prone, but they're all healthy. It's week 1, and so this is where Ryan has the highest ceiling. You got McCaffrey, you got Barkley coming out healthy. you know, you have the Browns playing the Panthers. Well, who's the Browns' former quarterback? Baker. Who's the Panthers' current quarterback? It's Baker. So Baker is going to want to score a lot of points, which is going to help McCaffrey. I mean, McCaffrey catches a lot of balls. Even if the Panthers get up, they're going to run the ball with McCaffrey. So I think McCaffrey scores a lot of points anyway, but I think this week has a chance to be one of those signature 30-point McCaffrey weeks. The Browns have a really good defense, don't get me wrong, but there's only so much you can do against a healthy McCaffrey. I think, 120 yards, 8 catches, a touchdown or 2 before you know it, you're at 25-ish points. So I think Ryan's going to cash in on his high ceiling this week. We'll see if it continues. I mean, I mentioned the San Francisco stuff with Deebo Samuel, with Elijah Mitchell. What do you know? They're both healthy, and who do they play? The Bears, and they're terrible. So I think this is the worst week to play Ryan. I think he's going to have a really good week, especially for his team. On the flip side of Justin, he has a lot of good matchups. I mean, the Chiefs are playing the Cardinals, so the Chiefs are going to have to score a lot. Mahomes is going to have 30 points this week. I'm sorry. Love Mahomes. They may sound like a homer, but he's going to score a lot of points. And for all we know, a lot of that's going to go to Juju. So Justin may have 30 from him and 20 from Juju, and before we know it, and then Ja'Marr Chase may have one of his 30-point games. And we're looking and we're saying, what the hell are we talking about? Barreto's team just put up 170 points. It just depends. I talked about that Pittman pick earlier. Who do they play? Houston. Houston's defense is terrible. So Michael Pittman could have a coming out party. It could happen. So Justin's matchups are there. Derek Carr playing the Chargers, that game's going to be a barn burner. I really, truly believe that. So Justin's quarterbacks, it's basically Justin's quarterbacks against Ryan's ceiling guys, because I don't think Ryan's quarterbacks are going to do super well. Burrow's going against Pittsburgh D, which I'm high on Pittsburgh's D. Another thing that hurts Justin here is the fact that he has Ja'Marr Chase and Ryan has Burrow. Because even if Chase goes off, that's great. But Burrow's getting some of those points. And because of that, I'm going with Ryan this week. I think his running backs, because they're healthy, and I think the fact that Burrow cancels out a lot of Justin's first pick and Chase is going to give Ryan the edge. I think Justin loses week 1. I think Ryan's team takes him down. But I think it's going to be a much closer matchup than we think. Next, we're going to go with Denny versus Matty Roman. Now, I talked about both of these teams. I'm not very high on Roman's team. I'm pretty high on Denny's team. I like them both. But we got an interesting situation here. Kind of the same situation with Pat when he had his Tom Brady and Dak Prescott. We have a Josh Allen versus Matthew Stafford. Week 1, game 1, Thursday night football, prime time. Matt Roman is going to have the lube out, watching that game all night long. We know how those Thursday night games go. A lot of times, first game of the season, they are high scoring. Defenses aren't ready yet for the real play. These offenses are already in sync because they're used to the same old players. I think that game's going to be a phenomenal game. I think it's going to be super high scoring, and Matt's going to get a ton of points from his quarterback. I mean, you're looking at 35 from Allen, 25 to 30 from Stafford. He probably could get 60 points from his quarterbacks. So he's going to get out to this big, fat, juicy lead. And I think another thing that hurts Denny is he has Gabe Davis starting. Once again, same thing with the Ja'Marr Chase Burrow thing. If Gabe Davis does good, Allen is going to steal some of those points, which is going to hurt Denny. We'll see how much it hurts him. But Matt's really counting on his quarterbacks. Another thing that's going to help Matt, I mean, he has Derrick Henry, the horse turd hair man. He's playing the Giants, and the Giants are god-awful. So Henry's going to have one of those Henry games. 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's going to get 25 to 30 points. I think Matt's going to lean on his heavy hitters this game. I think Dave Montgomery's going to be terrible this week. Woody don't even know if Waddle's going to want to start. And that Dallas game is going to be high scoring. That could be good for Pollard. That could be bad for Pollard. So Matt's going to need his studs to perform out because Denny's team overall is going to get points. I mean, you're looking at Eckler in that Vegas game is going to be high scoring. You're looking at Aaron Jones in that Minnesota game. I mentioned Minnesota's offense is going to be good. Well, Green Bay is going to have to score to keep up with them. Well, who's their main pass catching back? Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones could have 8 or 9 catches week 1. I'm not even joking. So the thing about it is Drake London going to do anything for Denny? Is Etienne going to do anything for Denny? Luckily for Denny, Etienne is a starter, so it's week 1. So James Robinson probably is not going to touch the ball very much. Number 2, they're playing Washington. Washington doesn't have a very good team. They don't really have a very good defense. I think Chase Young is out for the first 4 games of the year, so that's going to help Etienne as well. Tyreek Hill, I mean, it could be a double positive for Denny. If Waddle's hurt or doesn't play, that's bad for Matt. And that's also a double good for Denny because he has Tyreek Hill. So that means more touches for Tyreek Hill. So that could be really, really hurting Matt right there. That's a New England game. New England is not who they've been. They're one. I honestly think New England's one of the worst teams in the league. And I think Mike McDaniels is going to come in there and he's going to want to put a beat down on New England. I truly believe that. We'll see if Belichick can pull anything out of his ass. But you never know. I think a lot of it comes down to Trey Lance for Denny, if Trey Lance can come out. Now, luckily for Denny, Trey Lance is playing Chicago like we were just talking about. I don't think that the Bears are very good, as I've said many times. So Trey Lance might get lucky and might get him 20 points this week, might get 25 points, who knows. But this is going to be a much closer game. I think, obviously, like I said, Matt gets out to this huge lead with his quarterbacks and even with Derrick Henry. But I think Denny takes a tight one here. And the reason I say that is just because his running backs. I think Eckler has a huge game against the Raiders. I think Aaron Jones has a huge game against, and I think Etienne his first week, he's going to be feeling his first game in the NFL. He was injured all last year, didn't get to play a game. I think Etienne's going to surprise people and get about 20 points in this week. If Tyreek Hill can step up and do what he was traded for, and Trey Lance cannot be a turd, I really think that Denny edges Matt out. Matt gets a lot of points from his studs, but he falls off with the Pollard and the Cole Kmet, the Waddle. Godwin may not even play week 1, and I think Denny takes down Matt in week 1. So I think it's going to be a close one, though. Next matchup, we're going bye week. Timmy versus Cass, our champion. I mentioned this game before. These guys are separated in projections right now by 3/100ths of a point. So Yahoo doesn't know which turd to pick right here. And I'm having trouble picking the turd. We got Tim, who is the worst fantasy player. Cass, who's the champion. So season-wise, you got to go with Cass. But this ain't season. This is week 1 of the fantasy season. And you got to look at matchups and you got to look at teams. And I think I made it clear when I was talking about each team before. I think I like Tim's team a little bit better than Cass's team. The problem is does Tim's matchups go with the week better than Cass's matchups? That's another story, because I mentioned Justin Fields could be good, but he's going against the Niners this week. The Niners, not only do I think the Bears are bad, but I think the Niners have a really good defense, and it's going to be really, really tough for Justin Fields to do anything this week. Maybe some garbage points come in there. It's fantasy, you never know. Garbage is key. I don't know. That's a huge, we'll see. Luckily for Tim, his other boy Winston's playing Atlanta. Atlanta's terrible. So I think Winston's going to get off to a good start. On the other flip side, Cass is going to hit the jackpot with Murray, because I love the Chiefs. I think they smoke the Cardinals, but I think Murray's going to, the Chiefs are going to get up big. I really believe that. And then Murray's going to get his running. Murray's going to end up with 350 yards passing, 60 yards rushing, and 4 touchdowns. That's what Cass drafted him for, and that's what he's going to do this week. I really think that. A lot of it's going to be garbage, but still, he's going to get a ton of points. Probably 30 points for Cass this week. Can Tua do it against New England? We'll see. I don't know. I said he's going to put the hurt down. The coach of the Dolphins said they want to come out and they want to run the ball a lot this week. So we'll see if that means Tua is going to. But I love Cass's wideouts. That Cup is going to go off. I mentioned how high scoring I think that Thursday night game is going to be. I think Buffalo and Rams are going to score a lot. That's going to benefit Cup. I'm super high on the Eagles this year. I think A.J. Brown, they're going to want to try to feed him the ball. Hey, we traded a first-round pick for this guy. We want to show you guys how good he is. And then I think Brandon Cooks is going to get some good garbage time touchdowns or maybe some yards against the Colts this week. So Cass's team matchups look good, but at the same time, he has his running backs going against each other. Rashard Penny versus Javonte Williams. I don't even know how to feel about that. I think I like it for Javonte Williams in the fact that I think the Broncos smoke Seattle. So maybe they're going to feed the ball, but are they going to feed it to Melvin? They're going to feed it to Javonte? We'll see. On the flip side of this, I think Cass's flexes are terrible this week. Not only do I think the players are bad, but they're playing against Baltimore. The Jets are playing against Baltimore. Baltimore has a really good defense, and I'm not going to be surprised. I won't be surprised if Cass's flexes combine to get him 10 points. And that's a huge hole to have to dig yourself out of if you realize your flexes are terrible. Tim's aren't the best, but they're better than Cass's. Another thing that hurts Tim, Fields is playing in San Fran. He has San Fran D. I guess it evens out the picks, but it's always tough to be able to go against that. I mean, after looking at this teams, I love Tim's running backs so much. It's just tough. I think at the end of the day, I'm actually as much as the matchups are close, obviously 3-100s. I think I'm going to go Tim on a barn burner, and the reason I say that is because as much as Cass's quarterback's gonna get him a lead, I really truly think that Cass's quarterback's gonna outscore Tim's quarterbacks by 25 points, and Kupp, Brown, and Cooks are gonna do phenomenal. I mean, after that, Tim's team is just gonna dominate him. Kelsey's gonna be a monster too. Don't get me wrong, but Tim is one of the few guys in the league that has a guy in Pitts that could not get 100% destroyed by Kelsey. But when you look at Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Swift, Mike Evans, Deontay Johnson, Scary Terry, DK Metcalf. Like, you have these guys that are going to get a lot of fantasy points week one. I think Tim barely edges out. I wouldn't be surprised if San Fran has a pick six against Chicago, and I think that's going to be the difference. I think Tim wins a tight matchup against Cass. And last but not least, boys, we have GG Well Played against Gotham Rogues, me versus Cal. Yahoo has this one, a really close one as well. Both teams, really solid teams. I think, I've talked about that Jets-Baltimore game. I think Cal's Lamar is going to go off. Like 35 fantasy points go off. So that's not going to be fun for me. It's a noon game too, so he's going to jump out to this monster lead. He has Lamar Jackson going at noon. He has Joe Mixon going at noon. He has his basically two of his first three picks going at noon. I think they're both going to get him a ton of points this week. Devontae Adams is going to be in a barn burner against the Chargers. I think they're going to do the same thing that I mentioned with A.J. Brown. They're going to try to feed him the ball. Hey, we traded this first-round pick for this guy, and Derek Carr loves the guy. So Devontae Adams could have 160 yards and 2 touchdowns easily this week. Not even surprised. Question for Cal is going to be, is Zeke Elliott going to stay involved in the game against Tampa? Tampa's run defense the last 4 years has been historically good. Like, running back scores no points against Tampa Bay's run defense for multiple reasons. First off, their defense has been so good. Number one, their linebackers, as we saw in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, are ridiculously fast. But number two, their offense puts the pressure on them where they can't run the ball. Tom Brady's scoring so fast. That's the key in this Dallas game. I mentioned how high scoring I think it's going to be. And is Zeke going to stay in on passing downs? Is Pollard going to come in? Is Zeke going to be able to get any points? I wouldn't be surprised if Zeke had sub 10 points this week. No Tyron Smith, but you never know. Zeke could be awesome this week. It's a really tight thing. But I mentioned the Kadarius Toney thing, Cam Akers thing. Those are the wishy-washy ones. On the flip side, GG Well Played. Jalen Hurts gets Detroit this week. Detroit's defense is no bueno. Eagles are going to be flying high. I think Jalen Hurts gets a lot of fantasy points. And I mentioned how high I was on the Vikings offense. Kirk Cousins is playing Green Bay. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game. Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins connection. I think those two guys could go off this week. Kamara playing Atlanta. Suspension ain't here yet. Knock on wood. Hopefully it never comes, but it's definitely not here yet. The Saints know, hey, Atlanta, we're going to get up big. We're going to run the ball. Kamara could have plus Kamara's just a really good player. After that, and Nick Chubb against Carolina. We know that the Browns, Jacoby Brissett, they're going to run the ball maybe 40 times, maybe 50 times this week. And Nick Chubb's going to get the ball a lot. The weak side of it is starting Dameon Pierce against Colts D, which is really good. Dameon Pierce could be terrible this week, and do nothing. And then Robert Woods is with a new team. He's the number one wideout on a new team, but he's still with a new team. The only bright side with the Robert Woods thing is they're playing the Giants. The Giants are pretty bad, so maybe Robert Woods gets a few points. We'll see at the end of the day. I think I'm going to go with GG well played in this one. The projections project a little higher score, and I just am a little bit higher on. I think the Cousins to Jefferson connection is going to be just a little bit too much for the flex spots to overcome. There's easily a possibility where Nick Chubb in one flex spot outscores both Kadarius Toney and Cam Akers in the other flex spot. And when you get one flex spot eliminated by two, it's just tough for a team to come back. You guys know, especially in our league, the difference in some of these games is minuscule, and the flex spots matter a ton. I've talked about that with a bunch of teams this week. So I think GG well played takes it over with Cal, but I think it's going to be a way, way, way closer game than Yahoo's saying. So anyway, guys, that's the week 1 matchups we have. I hope the video wasn't too bad. First time. So real quick, we're going to go with a quick recap. We got Pat taking the dub over Jace. We got Llama with his ambulance squad running healthy, taking the dub over Barreto. We got Denny beating Matt. We have Tim edging out Cass, and we have Josh edging out Cal in week 1. Guys, it's almost here. 3 more days until that insane Thursday night, and 6 more days until Fantasy Red Zone Sunday, and more importantly, Chiefs. Chiefs are at 3:30 this week, so we get to watch all the noon games, see how our fantasy teams are doing, and then we get to watch the Chiefs smoke Arizona. Guys, I love you. I'll see some of you guys later today at Aunt Jan's, and I will talk to you guys later. See ya.